The Ramsey County Racial Equity and Community Engagement Response Team has developed this COVID-19 Ramsey County Racial Equity Impact Analysis tool. This map tool can be referenced to understand the racial inequities of communities that are highly vulnerable to an economic crisis during COVID-19. This tool can be helpful in order to make equitable decisions. This tool was modified from the Racial Equity Impact Awareness tool that was created by the Office of Equity and Social Justice in King County, Washington, in partnership with the Headwater People Consulting. In general, with this equity impact analysis tool, scores over 5 are considered vulnerable, and scores over 7 are considered very vulnerable. With this tool, we looked at 3 primary factors that would impact the community's economic recovery during this pandemic, looking at race, age, and income. So on this first page, you have the story map, which really provides a lot of detail, the historical context about why this map was created. There is a PDF, this map here, that if you click on that, you can scroll in and you can have a PDF version of the map, but there is also an interactive map. As you scroll down, it really explains the 3 factors that we considered, that we looked at the data when creating this tool. And if you click on the Explore the Racial Equity Data, that will take you right to the interactive map. And with this interactive map, it's broken down by census tract. And essentially, the neighborhoods that are more darker shaded are neighborhoods that are least likely to economic recover during this COVID-19 pandemic. And areas that are more lighter shaded are a little bit more resilient when it comes to economic recovery. And if you can scroll in, you can zoom in on the map, and you can see it overlays with some of our major roadways. And if you click on one of the shaded areas, it will take you to the screen. And this is census tract number 304. And as you can see up at the top of every of the census tracts, it has the racial equity analysis value. So this census tract neighborhood has a score of 7, which means this is considered a neighborhood that is more vulnerable and least likely to recover from this economic crisis. And what we looked at was the percentage for all of the scores up to 9, we looked at the percentage of residents in that census tract area who were African American that exceeded 10% or exceeded 25%. So for each neighborhood, if the percent of African American residents exceeded 10%, there was a point assigned, and if it exceeded 25%, there was a point assigned. And we also looked at the Asian, American Indian, and Latinx. And if the percentage of residents within that neighborhood exceeded 10%, there was a point assigned. If it exceeded 25%, there was a point assigned. And I'm going to zoom. No, it won't let me zoom in. And we also looked at income. So households that had income within 200% of the federal poverty guideline, if the percentage of households within that census tract were greater than 30%, a point was assigned. And if it was greater than 20%, a point was assigned. And we also looked at households living in residential property. If more than 50% of the households in that neighborhood lived in residential property, and this one had 63.61%, a point was assigned. And we looked at residents that did not have health insurance. And if that was greater than 7%, a point was assigned. And we also looked at food security. So if that neighborhood, there were greater than 16% of the households that where there was deemed food insecurity, a point was assigned. And we also looked at no grocery store within a half a mile. And we also considered age. And if more than 14% of the residents were over the age of 65, a point was assigned. And that is how we came up, and this was in consultation with King County Office of Racial and Social Justice. And this is how the tool was developed. This tool can be useful for decision makers when looking at trying to determine what resources should be going to communities. For example, with Ramsey County, have developed systems to be able to distribute food and basic needs to our residents. And we were able to utilize this tool to help determine what neighborhoods the most outreach should be focused on, which will be the neighborhoods that were higher ranked with this racial equity impact analysis. In addition, this tool can be useful, for example, as our schools prepare to reopen for the upcoming semester for 2020-21, to look at what neighborhoods may need a little bit more outreach, what children may need a little bit more assistance and support with respect to having masks, to food and basic needs, to all the things that they need. So we hope that you are able to utilize this tool as you are considering decisions to make, as Ramsey County is definitely a organization that is leading with race.